This is the state LAPD. That's group stalking in the workplace. Maria Solis is group stalking in the workplace on the opposite side of this laundry wall in concert with the people. This is her license plate. That's P.O.C. right over my head. Stalking, and so is Nova Contractors. They're going to federal prison. They're inside of 18044. This is crossing a path, amplified audible activity. This morning you saw them flying over around me in relevant position while I was inside of my bedroom. They flew over directly over my bedroom window, over my apartment, and then you saw them crossing path while they're in the distance, stalking the path. Flying over my head is the same, crossing a path conduct, maintaining presence, and you also saw them flying in circles around my living room window this morning, okay? Now the amplified audible activity and crossing path conduct is centered around where I'm located, engaging in the same demonic activity, which is maintenance in the path. This is Maria, who's inside of the laundry room on the opposite side of this wall. She is engaged in what is federal group stalking and monitoring. This is a demon, and so are all the minions. I've already shown you, they're all demons, and all they're doing is group stalking under the guise of recertification appointments. It's the exact same criminal presence and activity creation. And doing so, they're also engaged in federal stalking. All right, this is, again, what she's engaging in. She's group stalking. Okay, in concert with the people of the state, and her license is 8XV F30 Colorado. She's going to federal prison. And this is speaker companies as third-party group stalker, who is an employee of a third-party company engaging in workplace terrorism, sexual violence, and harassment as an entity in the workplace. This is all legally relevant. While the entity is group stalking now while I'm at work, okay? This is the criminal engagement and what are the elements of monitoring. And doing so while you're looking at the targeting conduct, this is the same specific environment where the sunrise and sunsets, no covering up of the light source, as you've already seen the light source remaining over my head for the duration of the day. This is the demonic environment where you've seen the methods of targeting with engineered light. That remains the specific environment while the entity is engaging in what is the hallmark, that is stalking in the specific environment using helicopters in particular. Again, it is 9:31. It's currently 9:33 a.m. where this entity is engaging in that amplification. And I hear the helicopter long before it actually crosses path over me. This is a demon that's targeting using the amplification of that sound of that helicopter. And that's also what's happening when I'm documenting the stalking by helicopter at 5 o'clock in the morning, okay? Creating an unreasonable nuisance. This is demonic with regard to the element of what is audible activity in the engineered environment. Again, I'm going to continue to note this. Understand this is in concert with LAPD. Maria Solis Alvarez is going to federal prison. All right. And this is prosecution for speaker companies, a third party, not a legitimate business. It's the corrupt misuse of a business for the criminal facilitation of federal group stalking and monitoring in concert with a public entity. Nova Contractors, it's the same. Corrupt misuse of a business for the criminal purpose of federal group stalking and monitoring. Nova Contractors is a third party, not a legitimate business. It is the malicious guise under which criminal activity is underway in concert with a public entity that's engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring. You do not have any legal excuse while you're cleaning an apartment at the crime scene, engaged in criminal presence and activity creation. It is, and also I documented them literally engaging in the pattern of conduct in my face in concert with that same corrupt entity. The demon-possessed workforce that is LAPD, they are very likely not natural-born citizens if they're the same two that I documented last week, and I documented them before last week as well, while the entity had a light source. Again, I documented them under the light source. That was May 6th, where you saw the light source over this property, and you saw them group stalking with Center for Better Life, while engineer light moved all across the apartment building. And at 8:30 in the morning, what I'm showing you at the same time of year when I'm on Euclid Avenue and Hope Boulevard, and Ontario Police Department is group stalking at that intersection and the light source at the same time in an entirely different region, hovering directly over my head. That's not the sun, that's the engineered environment. Don't forget what was already documented. This is an entity that is monitoring documentation and group stalking in a demonic environment. Covering up that light source is the same demonic environment, and it is the prosecution civilly and criminally of Todd Speaker and speaker companies. All right, you're understanding what is group stalking by the same exact entity. All 59 units here are going to federal prison, every single last one of them. All right, the entity is acting in concert on a ceaseless basis while a demon is off to work. They remain a part of the entity that lives at the crime scene. You go to federal prison for that. The entity is acting on a ceaseless basis. That's why you have demons such as Center for Better Life, demons affiliated with what is Access, demons of that work for the company, speaker companies, engaging in what is ongoing criminal activity on behalf of a whole entity. All right, living at the crime scene, working at the crime scene. This is systematic facilitation. And you go to federal prison for that. Okay, this is P.O.C. Again, this is the pattern of conduct as you are witnessing it underway. And I just want to speak to the despicable malice that is also being shown. This is a regional manager This is a demon-possessed third-party group stalker who is exercising fictitious authority, and her position with this third-party company is as regional manager. She is inherently engaged in the violation of federal housing policies. This while federal stalking is underway, while this criminal system is underway, and every single last federal housing recipient, all 40. I believe it's 48 units that are federal housing recipients. They're engaged in federal stalking. They and the employees of speaker companies and those at corporate. Also, while this information is on the computers, I receive applications, I process applications for federal housing. I routinely review their information, their social security numbers, all of that. I'm also documented because they're the entity that's engaged in group stalking. So that's the lawful use for the documentation of a government that's monitoring you. But I want to be clear, their criminal conduct is in violation of federal housing laws, which prohibit and also are grounds of prosecution by the federal government for the publishing, sharing, and you are inherently engaged in that. We're federal stalking by this entity that literally just flew over the apartment, flew over my head while I am at work. Okay, speaking to the targeting conduct in the specific environment. It doesn't get any more precise than that, by the way. The entity is targeting nonetheless when it's flying at a distance. You're looking at crossing a path in the specific environment. The entity is literally flying over my head in the specific environment. Both methods of analyzing targeting. Group stalking is underway, and the entity is doing so on video in concert with the LAPD, and this is the direct engagement in what is also federal stalking violation of Title 18, Section 22618, subsections 1 and 2. While they're engaging in surveillance on the internet, I am a property manager. This is inherent violation of relevant federal housing policies that do not provide for. It is outlawed that the personal identifying information that is while they are keeping me under surveillance, while they are group stalking a resident manager, they are inherently engaged in what is monitoring on this communication device, the ongoing simultaneity of conduct with what I'm doing on the computer on an ongoing prolonged basis, as I've documented that. They're engaged in monitoring on this communication device, and it is published information, social security numbers, those that are applying for housing, those that are already housing, federal housing recipients, that while I am in electronic communication with third-party group stalkers that work for the third-party company, exchanging their information. They're violating federal housing laws at the same time because this is public information. The corrupt conduct of LAPD, they are unlawfully maintaining and aware of and in the possession of private information, and that's a crime for that department. I want to be clear; they can be prosecuted for that. Well, and I'm not laughing because it's funny. I'm laughing. This is justice, and just want to let you know all of the crimes that they're engaging in. It's relevant to additional, and there's even more. Like I said, this is relevant for RICO charges as well. I'm focusing on revealing what the entity is engaging in. This is federal group stalking and monitoring. The government needs to be prosecuted for understanding what they're doing and how they do it, and then the real-time knowledge that they maintain while they continue to do it. Speaking to that which I advocate. Any and every method of punishment and deterrence for engaging in this criminal system. And so that includes everyone that lives at the crime scene, works at the crime scene, federal prison, all the way around, okay? And you can engage in criminal monitoring that are elements. It's based on elements, okay? It's not just based on, as you'll see, the prosecution of Todd Speaker and third parties such as Don Nagel, Kimberly Fletcher, Yolanda Poon, Eddie Lang, etc. Those that are documented engaged in federal stalking online, Teresa Becerra engaged in federal stalking online and on the phone, which is a communication device, and they're creating audible activity as I talk to them. They're engaged in conduct while the entity acts in concert to emails that are being sent. This is real-time knowledge surveillance that they're engaged in, and they act in concert with LAPD. You'll go to federal prison in the same way. They're engaged in ongoing surveillance of any and everything, and they're violating federal housing laws while they do so because the entity is sharing this information that I am regularly dealing with based on my job as a resident manager for a property management company that receives federal housing that provides federal housing benefits to third-party group stalkers, okay, which is a crime. It's also the grounds that they're going to be removed from because they're not only engaged in criminal conduct with the government, they're violating federal housing policies while they're recipients of this program. I mean, it is just, level after level after level of criminal conduct and federal prosecution. So I just want to make sure that you're cognizant of that while the entity is flying over my head in the workplace at the specific environment. Okay, it is currently 9:40 a.m. engaging in federal stalking online. 9:37. This is real time knowledge of what it is that I'm documenting. She sends an email. Excuse me. That is Maria Solis Alvarez. This is a demon. This is federal stalking on the communication device, and this is a psychopath. This is a demon that's engaging in lying in wait conduct. A psychopath that knows that you're documenting them. Sending a text message, which she did at 9:37, while I am documenting what the entity just did, flying over my head, is relevant to that real time knowledge of her criminal conduct that's being documented. And I will send upload the screenshot of that text message. That's Title 18 criminal conduct. All right, operation of the communication device while you're documenting. This is P.O.C.